So the parts we're going to be needing for this service are 1.2 litres of Castrol Racing 1 4-stroke 10W40 oil, an oil filter to fit the Honda Varadero 125. This one I've got here is a Filtrex one, Filtrex oil filter. We're also going to be needing a 17mm socket or spanner to open the sump plug, and also an 8mm socket to open the oil filter, located just there. Alright, how's it going everyone? It's Harvey from Tour Review, and today I'm just going to show you how to change the oil and filter on a Honda Varadero XL125. Now, I actually got quite confused. I couldn't find where the sump bolt was to drain the oil at the start, but it's actually located, if I just bring the camera around and zoom in, it's right under here. It's a little big bolt that you can see just there. And what we're going to do is just screw that off and drain the oil out. And there we go. So the last time the oil was changed on this bike was when I was out in Rome, in Italy. So it's done about 2,500 miles since, and it's in very much need of a change. So we're going to do that today. We're also going to change the filter as well. Allow us to drain out. Also tip the bike up and down on the stand to get all the oil out of the engine if it may be sort of towards the other side of the engine or over this side a bit too much. So just rock the bike back and forward and we'll get the rest of the oil out. Make sure you don't lose that bolt. It's got a little magnetic sort of spacer on it. Make sure that's on as well and keep that bolt nice and safe. And you'll see more come out. There you go. Alright, so once we're done with that, we'll clean off the little sump bolt, make sure it's nice and clean, get any excess oil off it if we can, and then we're literally just going to screw it back into the little hole it came into. Not too tight. It's the biggest mistake a lot of people make, is putting it too tight, and it may crack if you put it too tight. So 17mm again, and we're literally just going to nip it off, not too tight. There we go. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the oil filter. So this is the actual oil filter I've got for the bike. It's this make, hopefully this will focus, go on. There we go. It's a Filtrex oil filter. So we're going to start off by loosening the bolts on the actual oil filter cap themselves. And we can literally just screw those out the hand towards the end. They shouldn't be too tight. If they have been done up too tight, and again they could crack as well. Boom. And a little bit of oil is going to drain out at the same time, so watch out for that. Get the towel down, or your little bowl as well at the bottom. And we're just going to unplug that. There we go. So a fair amount of oil is just falling out of there. So now we're going to try and get the filter out itself. And that is, yeah, that's in very much need of change. Because that has been changed in about 4,000 miles, which isn't very recommended by Honda. Anyway, right, so our next step is just to clean out the oil filter inside itself. So there's going to be a little bit of excess oil still left in there from the actual oil filter itself, and we're just going to clean all that crap out of there and make sure it's nice and clean for the brand new oil filter we're about to chuck inside. Well, there we go. Right, so now we've got the oil filter out, we're just going to literally douse it in a bit of oil to make sure it's ready for the new oil. So what we're going to do is get the actual oil filter itself, get the oil here, and all we're going to do is plug it all the way to the top. Once that oil's filled up to the brim, we're then going to place it right inside. Watch out, something's going to leak out slightly. There we go. And then from there we can just replace the cap on like so. Bolts back in. And all we're going to do is just tighten up the actual bolts themselves. Make sure they're not going to come off. We're just going to nip those up, not too tight, otherwise they will crack. Good, so those bolts are all nipped up. And now we're going to move on to putting oil in the engine and finishing off the overall service itself. Alright, so our next step is to loosen the actual oil cap itself. Take off the cap, make sure you don't lose it. And then we're going to place our little funnel into the engine. it looks that the angle isn't going to be too easy, so we're going to have to hold it to keep it in place. Remember, the Varadero engine takes 1.2 litres of oil, but it's always best to check your sight glass down here to make sure the oil levels are good. Well, the oil we're going to be using is Castrol Racing 1 10W40. Standard oil, good quality, long lasting. Can't really go wrong with this, to be honest. Alright, to be easy with 2 people, but considering we're a one-man army right now, we're just going to chuck it in with one hand. So we're going to make sure that funnel's in place, and then pour the oil in. Right, so we put the oil on the engine. Now to double check to see what the sight sort of glass limit is, we're going to take our funnel out, place the bike upright and look in the sight glass. So right now that's a little bit too low, so I'm going to fill it up a bit more. Make sure you check that oil level when the bike is upright. And that limit right now, nice and upright of the bike, is smack on just below the max level. Perfect. Alright, so to finish off, we're going to get rid of all the excess oil surrounding the engine. Just clean it up and make sure we don't slip on it if we were to ride it off. Also clean out down by the sump plug just to make sure it's not leaking. Check down there. And apart from that, really, you want to run the bike for sort of 5-10 minutes, make sure the oil's circulating, and check to see if that oil level's gone down. Typically after the first start, the engine's going to burn a little bit of oil, so make sure to double check that sight glass after your first ride, or after 5 to 10 minutes, just heat cycling the bike. So that's been it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. This is the Honda Varadero 125. I will be doing a review on it very shortly, so stay tuned for that. It's one of my favourite bikes, really. So, I did 4,000 miles around Europe on it. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Have fun, ride safe, and thanks for watching.